Maneva na sema PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV de osia dem yopo.
CEO, Forestry Commission. Good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
It's been a while. It's been so long.
In fact, one will say it's been more than a while, and I must admit that for some time I have been too far away from Radio Gold. And maybe this is the new beginning. So once I have begun coming, or I'm beginning coming here today, it will be a constant.
Okay.
Yes.
We hope so.
Yes.
We hope so. How's government treating you?
Governance is a continuum. You are bedeviled with a lot of challenges, but as President Mahama would always say, this is not the time to be brooding over all those challenges or complaints. So there's a need for us to confront it head on, and that is why we are where we are. So I trust that this regime is the best decision Ghana ever made, and therefore everybody, every appointee is very hungry for success and to ensure that things are done right for the collective good of every citizen.
The best decision
decision Ghana ever made in a very long time. And I mean, comb the whole continent. I am not aware yet of any country where a certain president has been deposed or been rejected, only for him to be recalled after 8 years. And it therefore brings to mind the profound statement by Archbishop Duncan William that your comeback will be greater than your setback. So indeed, you can tell that President Mahama's comeback is now greater than his setback. This is a man who is not up to rhetorics, up to just looking for mantra to appease his ego, but rather he means every word he says. He promised Ghanaians he was going to work with 60 ministers. So far, he has achieved what I would say, without any verification, more than 25% of the promises he's made. And he's done that even with 56 ministers. And say in local parlance, somebody would say 56 in Pony. So imagine if he has gotten the 60 from the word go, he would have actually even achieved 50 by now. But it's a long haul, 3 years ahead of him to do all of that. And I'm very convinced that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is making the right choices. He has made sure the nuisance taxes, such as the e-levy, the COVID-19 levy, the betting tax, etc., were removed. And so now I would like to talk about this myself before you ask a question on it, about the 1 cedi levy that was introduced. It is instructive to remind ourselves and Ghanaians that before President Mahama left office, if you look at the records of the performance of ECG from 2013, the ECG's debt started dwindling from 2013 to the extent that even in 2016, the ECG actually declared profit. That tells you the caliber of leader we had, and that is in President Mahama. And so ECG started declaring profit in 2016, only for the table to turn because a new government took over. And before then also, you agree with me, just as our listeners and viewers, that we had resolved the major challenge of the erratic power supply that was called Doomso. And that was also another great achievement by President Mahama, who said, look, I am not going to micromanage this situation. I'll resolve it. You recall that even when the previous regime had to transfer, relocate Ameri from Takoradi to Kumasi, the cost involved was far more than what it cost us to even move it from the manufacturers to Ghana, amongst other things. And you see, so you wonder why these people think they have the moral right to even be talking about this. In the first place, they have not preferred any solution to what they think is an alternative to what President Mahama is doing. But you see, President Mahama is not a liar. He is very objective, he is very sincere, honest, and truthful to Ghanaians. Fortunately, he has also got the goodwill of the people of Ghana. And unless they do not understand what goodwill means, it means that till date, if an election is conducted or a survey is conducted, more than 50% of Ghanaians will still believe that President Mahama will be and is taking the right decisions to make Ghana a better place.
You're confident of
I'm
that?
very confident of that. And you can go out there to find out for yourselves. You see, when we introduced ESLA, which was a sunset clause supposed to be retired after 5 years, You remember the NPP at the time opposed it, and they called it what? The devil levy. It was an evil levy. And they walked out of Parliament because of ESLA. ESLA was supposed to what? To manage or help us retire our indebtedness at the energy sector, the legacy sector. Now, when they came, this same evil levy, they increased it in 2019. They now saw wisdom. They now saw or found common sense to see the need to actually appreciate what President Mahama had done. So they increased it in 2019. As though that was not enough, in 2022, they introduced 2 new levies to add to the component. That was the Delta levy and then the sanitation and pollution levies. That was still not enough for them. They went ahead to what? Collateralize ESLA. Now, you have gone to collateralize ESLA. In fact, it's not only ESLA they collateralize. You and I are aware of Get Fund and other stuff that they collateralize. This is a regime that had no solution in mind. You've collateralized ESLA, making it difficult for government to now find space and avenue to be able to retire or manage the indebtedness of our legacy debts. So President Mahama is saying what? Now, you almost 45 to 50% of that goes to servicing the collateralization they have gone for. President Mahama is very truthful. Seeing that there's need for him to solve the problem head on, he has decided that, look, we have to take the bitter pill now than to be massaging it. Many were the people who were saying, oh, but in President Akufo-Addo's time, there was no doom, so the lights were constantly on. That is why we owe over 70 billion now. Because they were keeping the lights on deliberately, finding a way to procrastinate payments, amongst other things, shifting the responsibility onto the next regime. So they were just micromanaging the situation. I am very happy that President Mahama has very dedicated and competent persons like the Honorable Dr. Ato Forson, who is there, and John Jinapor, who have all decided that, look, there's a need for us to do this the way President Mahama will do it. And that is exactly what we're doing. We can only appeal to the Ghanaian that, look, trust that President Mahama is doing nothing untoward. Others have also tried to compare these to the e-levy.
E-levy, yes.
No, these are 2 different things. When the e-levy was being introduced, you, myself, and the person listening or watching us today were told that by the gentleman who has gone into exile, what's the name? One of the worst ministers we ever had at the finance ministry, Ken Oforiatta.
He's gone into exile.
That's what I'm supposed to believe.
He's seeking treatment.
Well, he can seek treatment in Ghana. I thought that he said he was building a lot of facilities. You see, this is what they did. You recall when he told Parliament that the Esipon Stadium was 90% complete, at the time when it was not even 10%. So these are the people. So if he knew he had built systems here as finance minister, released funds for projects to be done, he should have been comfortable to seek medical care in Ghana. Wherever he is at the right time, I'm sure that the laws will catch up with him and he'll be brought to book to answer for his ills. But my point is that we cannot continue to govern a country in this manner, where we micromanage situations and it doesn't resolve problems. And it is the reason why I will forever be very grateful to God for giving us somebody like John Dramani Mahama, who has got only 4 years, but has demonstrated within just less than a year his commitment to fulfilling the promises he made to Ghanaians, the covenant he has actually signed with them. And if you look at it, we are just on that tangent. Moving on, he has introduced the National Apprenticeship Program. He's introduced the Ejumera, the Mahama Cares, the various levies have been taken off, and he intends to make sure that he executes these things to the latter, because this is a contractual mandate or agreement he has signed with the people of Ghana.
Be that as it may,
Yes.
one of the things that confronts you now is a strike by nurses.
Yes, in fact, while I was coming, I was listening to, is it Dr. Tinkran?
Yes.
Unfortunately, he's not even in Ghana, I'm told.
Yes, David Tinkran.
He's how long has he been away?
I think for some time now, I believe so.
Oh, okay. So it's unfortunate he himself is not even in Ghana whilst fighting for the fight. The strike is ongoing and fighting. And he was, I think he was, I understand the concerns of the nurses. Definitely we all have concerns. And no employee would ever be content with wherever they are. But there are some basic needs and requirements that ought to be met. And I think that I listened to labor expert Austin Game as well, who actually offered himself to to mediate in the case that there's any challenge. And I think that both parties should look at consulting him or reaching out to him if need be. There's no winner-take-it-all situation under such circumstance. And I love what somebody said, that the patients, the customers of the hospitals are their patients. And these patients are also the same taxpayers plus their parents and relations who you are demanding from that pay you higher. And they are saying, I am sick, attend to me, while you go ahead to do that. And so we would only want to plead with them that with the health ministry, the Ghana registered nurses and midwives come to a compromise or an equilibrium on some of their demands, believing that they can have good faith with the current government, that whatever agreements are gone into, the right things will be done. And we, Ghanaians, are watching in general. So we do not want to lose more lives. And when lives are lost, it cannot be reversed. But you will still have your payment, even in arrears. And so what conscience will you have to request for that? It is on the same basis why our military, our police, etc., do not go on strike actions. Maybe we should be considering that for the health sector as well. It is not an imposition of a stringent measure to frustrate or deliberately stifle their progress, amongst other things. I may have my daughter who could be going to become a nurse or a doctor or a relative or a friend, etc. anyway. So am I saying they should also be frustrated? No. We seek the best working conditions for all people. I listened to one of the comments he made, that even when you are a nurse and you acquire, or I don't know what it is,
you seek healthcare.
You seek healthcare, which has been as a result of in the discharge of your duty, that maybe you contract a disease as a result of that. You still must take care of it for yourself. I think that is not proper. We need to look at all of that to see the best way to make things. And I am convinced that President Mahama is the right person at this right time to resolve most of the challenges that are confronted in the labor industry.
Interesting.
Yes.
Well, those are just by way of
Introduction.
general commentary. Anyway, if you just join us, Elikem Kotoko is. Are you still acting?
Yes.
Is the board in place? The board is not in place.
It's in place, so I think soon will be confirmed.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But until then, you're acting.
I'm still acting.
Acting Deputy CEO for the Forestry Commission. Did you ask to be taken to Forestry Commission with the choice of the president?
It was the choice of His Excellency.
Okay.
I don't know, but I want to believe that maybe my advocacy and stern voice on the level of scourge and the extent of damage being done. Coincidentally, my dad, an engineer, Mr. Samuel Frank Kotoko, worked in the mines at Tebrebe Goldfields in Takwa. So I have lived in the mine field for at least 3 to 4 years myself, then to Elubo and Takoradi. So I have a fair idea also of some of these things. So whether providence, divine, or coincidence, it all worked, and I am happy. The truth, however, also is wherever you were put, you ought to be just capable to assimilate, learn from the people, and be able to advance in terms of what the goals of His Excellency, the President, is. And it is by this reason I want to again thank His Excellency for the honor done me, and also the privilege of having a minister who understands the challenges, Honorable Emmanuel Amakofibua, who understands that in his own constituency there is this challenge. In his region is one of the most affected when we talk about the forest, the depletion of the vegetation, the galamsey, amongst other things. And so, yes, I am so glad for this opportunity, and I seek to continue to learn and also unlearn to learn.
But that would be difficult work.
It's not that it will be a difficult work. It is indeed a very difficult work. I mean, you are confronted with challenges of having people you either know or have heard of in one way or the other, or may have had some relation with in the other sense, be involved, and you would have to take the very tough decision to do the things you did. I am very proud that I recall when we had to go to Summerboy with the National Security and the Police Service. And I want to again thank Honorable Dr. Edward Omani Boama, the Defense Minister, the IGP, Mr. Yohonu, and the National Security Coordinator for the collaborative effort that they have actually demonstrated so far. Because, mind you, the Forestry Commission is not a weaponized institution. When you look at our neighboring countries, in the Francophone countries, 99% of the people who work in the Forestry Commission are detachment or deployment from the military. And therefore, you can confirm that they are actually a weaponized institution. But we are not. We are normal civilians who are taken to go and fight and combat people who are very wielding sophisticated weapons. So our rangers and our guards come into contact with serious or grave danger. And there's the need for us to collaborate with the security agencies in order to combat this. The greatest challenge is that if we are unable to resolve this matter head on or nip it in the bud, then it means that Ghana is providing a fertile ground for even the extremists who will find it very suitable and profitable to maneuver and get into our forests, build camp there, extract our minerals, and use that to fund their extremist activities. And that will not speak well for our country, Ghana. Mind you, there are other foreign nationals apart from the Chinese, etc., that we know, who are also coming in through our borders from our neighboring countries. And there's a need for us to stamp our authority, or else there's looming danger. But you see, Senator, it is so sad. If you've listened to the NDC government in the past few days or weeks, you will notice that there's been a change in the narrative. We decided not to brood over the past mess that was committed. But again, sometimes you are compelled to do so. You recall how President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo at the time was very boisterous and vociferous, trying to make Ghanaians believe that he was determined to fight Galamsey, and he was prepared to put his presidency on the line, which was just usual political rhetoric. We all saw it. I don't need to be the one to convince anybody listening today.
What's the evidence that you've seen that has convinced you that? Because now you are in a Forestry Commission.
Because the extent of... I mean, look, we all know that the damage was done from 2017 to 2024. The extent of involvement of people in government and how they didn't care what we said, they didn't care what you do, they were just doing all manner of things. Get into the forest, etc. You will hear the popular names of people who were in government on the activities they embarked on. They didn't care. It was just a thriving enterprise, and they didn't care what happened. And so you recall also a sister station did a documentary on the 16th, was it 12th or 4th of February 2016, that showed how clean our water bodies were until they took over, and suddenly it turned yellowish, brownish, coffeeish, I don't know which color. And it is so sad that apart from maybe the southern belts, the Volta region, etc., even when you can see clean water, you are not sure if it is really clean and free of the heavy metals that can find its way into them. And so, on that note, I believe that Ghana Water Company and maybe Forestry Commission may also need to put a paper to Parliament moving forward in the future. We have been protecting the waters. And you see now it has become clear that when there are compromises or some challenges at forestry, it affects our water too. But you know, Ghana Water has never paid a dime to forestry for protecting the water and making the clean water that they used to enjoy. So we need to look at all of these things in order to advance our major challenges. The Forestry Commission is not the institution that is supposed to be fighting the Galamsey and all of that. But many think that by mandate, we are the sole authority to do so. We can only, like I told you, because we are not a weaponized...
Where forest under you are invaded.
Yes.
You have a right...
Yeah, we have a right to protect. But you see, that's also to fight these people, we cannot, because we are not clothed with the powers of that machinery to be able to fight them head on, considering the sophisticated weapons they possess. And so we can only do that with the security agencies. And so we are doing that to the best of our knowledge. I'm sure, and I can say emphatically, that within these past few months of our coming into power, we have arrested a lot more foreign nationals, which is very evident. We've arrested more, we've seized more excavators, which is also more evident. I am looking forward to see the next level where legislation and prosecutions all are in tandem with the ultimate goal of the president to make sure that it doesn't become an attractive enterprise for many. The challenge also remains that it is not that easy that somebody who is in a mine pit or mining, doing illegal mining, earning maybe 1,000 cedis a day or a week or 2,000 a week, and then you suddenly want to propose alternative livelihoods for him, and they are saying they are going to make 500 cedis a month, or that same 2,000 cedis they made a week in a month. But that is where education kicks in, and by education, we need to move beyond the four walls of brick and mortar to get out of the comfort of the classroom by engaging in more advocacy, involving the chiefs, traditional authorities, opinion leaders, and other stakeholders in communities. Plays a major role. And if they have a buy-in, that alone makes the problem half solved, because they are the custodians and largely superintend over land in their jurisdictions. So traditional councils. And that is why, for instance, I can say here that instead of the so-called one district, one factory they were introducing at the time, if they had rather talked of one traditional council, one factory, the authorities there would have owned that program, knowing that it is in recognition of the traditional authorities and the councils to make sure that they hold these things well. But that is another discussion for another day. So the major things to know when you see a government that is ready to fight this canker is the number one thing, which is political will. President Mahama has demonstrated beyond bounds that he has gotten the political will and is ready to fight this head on. He has not gone out there to be making public, to just deliberately, what's the word to use? Public display, to just say, I am this, I'm putting my presidency on the line. No, it is actions, not words. And so he's demonstrated the political will. Then it must be backed or followed by the enforcement. And you would agree with me that there's been a lot of enforcement going on now. There are prosecutions ongoing. I would seek the indulgence of the judicial service or our judiciary to up their game or ramp up their game in terms of the number of courts or judges that are being trained in forest laws related to matters of this nature, so that there can be speedy prosecutions in terms of that. Now, when there's enforcement, then these are very quick or short-term measures, which, however, have very lasting solutions. We must blend the short, medium, and long-term solutions. I have said consistently at various places that one of the a few of the things we need to do, you see, the purpose of Education Center is to cure societal problems. So what is the essence of education if our education still remains standardized instead of being customized? The reason I'm saying this is that there's a particular problem now with the 7 major regions, forest regions of Ghana. We must begin to consult with the Ministry of Education, the Ghana Education Service, to see what role they can also play whilst we educate people in that region to ensure that they change their way of life. We must engage the media to see what role they can play, so that especially those in those 7 major forest regions play a major role. So if we go to the Ministry of Education or GES, we can say forestry in collaboration with them want to form forest clubs in those major regions. So in the schools, instead of them having maybe Red Cross, or I'm just mentioning by, not because that is a specific thing. You know, we used to have all these clubs, the F Club, the Wildlife, and all of that. Many of them dwindle over time. It could be because the problem they were supposed to solve, they solved them at the time. But now another problem has emerged. We must find the solutions. And you know, when we talk of even energy conservation, amongst other things, I must praise my father anytime on this. When we were kids and we were stepping out of the house, he always asked you, because if you notice, most switches are by your door. So he asked you if you have hit the wall. And by hitting the wall, he only means if you have turned off the lights before coming out and turn off appliances. So it became a part of us from tender age that you must turn off appliances, and so you must not waste energy. And if we imbibe this in our children from the youngest age, they cultivate that habit and grow with it. So if we have forest clubs, for instance, it could be a Forestry Commission initiative, but it can only be fully implemented and embraced by the Ministry of Education, Ghana Education Service, the media, the chiefs, our parents' home, etc. It means that we will churn out materials. It could be poems, it could be rhymes, it could be what have you. They could have plays like we have by the fireside. It could be that by the fireside will be revamped and they would only be talking about forest depletion. So there will be stories around that that whole scenario, which is supposed to refresh, to not brainwash, to rather doctrinate us into knowing why we must conserve the forests, why we must preserve and sustain and manage it very well. When we do that, we can look at other neighboring other countries. I mean, Brazil, India, etc. They also have forest festivals. We can also have forest festivals here, where students on vacation can go on a 1 week camping in one of the forests, and there's proper protection and facilities to make them enjoy that moment. I'm sure you and I have watched movies where we've seen whites go on camping at places, and we seem to wish we can also experience some of those things. If we put in the right measures, not only will these be curing the problem, it can also be a part of ecotourism that can also generate even revenue to government. When we are having these and we engage the media, that look, we are pleading with you, Senna, every morning, if you can spend just 2 minutes or 5 minutes to talk on something related to forest depletion. Every afternoon, whoever comes also says something. Then during your drive time, also somebody says something. It means we are all working towards a common goal, and everybody will be like, and I know you agree, many will say, hey, Radio Gold is doing well. They are always constantly talking about it. Somebody would definitely say that. The same way people call in and say, Senna, you have been very consistent. Nancy, you have been very consistent. That is just the same way it's been. And I am sure that moving forward, within the shortest possible time, we'll be putting all these together to see how we can engage all the stakeholders in order to ensure that we resolve these matters permanently. Don't forget that whilst people think that it is only when the water becomes clean that we'll believe that there's work being done, the water can even be clean. It is only the turbidity you are talking about. The heavy metals or minerals or whatever that are still contained in that water may still be present there. And it is admittedly the fact that it will take almost a decade, if not more, to resolve this problem entirely. However, it could be created within a year or two. It took about 8 years to create this whole mess. And we now have to suffer for it. We must be concerned because you may think the water you are still drinking is so clean. It may not necessarily be the case. As we destroy or pollute our water, we destroy the aquatic life. The chemicals find its way into the soil, which has compromised our crop yield. And that means that we should be thinking about even our cocoa and other food crops. So there's a whole chain that we must be careful. We must start cutting them in order to make sure we resolve these problems. If not, there's a major threat to our survival as a people in a country called Ghana.
Let me take you to Summer Boy.
Yes.
What were you there to do?
To Forestry Commission? Oh, Summer Boy.
Yeah. What were you there to do?
So, all kudos to the minister again. The minister actually had intel and dispatched a team to undergo an exercise to unravel the veracity or otherwise of illegal mining that was going on around that enclave and in even some of our forest reserves. If I recall right, in our compartment 198 or so, that was where an exercise of that was ongoing. We were on the premise of Akonta mining, and we found about, was it 8 or 9 Chinese? I've forgotten the figures because we keep arresting so many people. And so some Chinese and some other people, Ghanaian nationals, who confirmed in various ways that they confirmed they were engaged in illegal mining, and also said so many things. How they were paying some people weekly out of whatever they made, amongst other things. So exactly, I think 4 or 5 a.m., we had besieged the place and dispatched teams to various places, and it was a successful exercise. Ghana has 288 forest reserves, of which at the time we took office, almost 9 were compromised. But as I speak with you today, we have retrieved all, in the exception of just one area. The name, I'll try and get you the name. And that is because, to what's the word to use?
To deal with the problems in the nine. But you said one.
Yeah, there's
you
one.
have one.
Yeah, one. And the other one too, it's going to be a bit combative. Reason being that the last time there was an engagement with them, they lost, I think, 2 of their men. And so I know that they sort of are battle ready for any next confrontation. But that is why I cannot divulge some of the information now, because it's on need-to-know basis as our security services are preparing.
In that forest,
yes.
There has been a fierce
There's been a fierce engagement, and so
they are still in there.
And so but gradually there's also fear creeping in them, having realized that government is deliberate about this, and therefore there isn't much activity ongoing, but just a more of sitting down on the lookout and amongst other things. And it is a reason why I will commend my minister, sector minister, Honorable Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa, for his steadfastness in making sure that he said it. In fact, let me tell you what he said. He said, Elikem, well, he calls me my brother. He said, my brother, even if we are able to resolve most of the challenges of Ghana and we don't solve the Galamsey menace, the people of Ghana will not forgive us. And we must make sure we do this. And if I'm right, that was his exact statement he made to me. And that was even he reiterated that 2 weeks ago when I was with him. So this is somebody who is committed to making sure that the challenges are confronted, the problem is resolved once and for all. And it is in the spirit of what the leader stands for, President Mahama. And so you cannot do otherwise, and everybody feels the need to do exactly what the president has instructed that we do.
Yes. In some cases, you've lost hectares of forest cover to Galamsey.
Yes. And so you see, it also now comes again with a lot of reclamation, which comes at a cost.
PENDREAM TV now, so far so good. Say open online portal e Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.